Hello, I'm Shauna Lesueur, and this is Umbra EDU. Today we're going to talk about one of the biggest concerns faculty have for fall 2020. It's how do you stay connected with your students virtually, even if it's the first time that you've ever taught online or a hybrid course. What I want to do is give you 5 strategies for how you can keep your students connected with you, because we know that this increases their ability to achieve the learning objectives you set for them. It builds community and it helps retain your students in your courses in a really positive way. Let's get started. Strategy number 1: give your students space to be humans in your classroom. For example, a strategy or tactic that I employ in my classroom is called high-lows. At the beginning of every class, I give my students some space to transition from whoever they were out in the world into the student they're going to be in the classroom by telling us a little bit about what's happened in their lives since we last saw them. Sometimes these are really positive things that we can celebrate with them. Sometimes they're things that they're struggling with. And other times they're opportunities to give students support with things that they might have a question about as far as how the university is functioning or what they need to do to seek out resources. Other students are a great wealth of information for each other in that space. So I'll show you what that might look like. Hello, fabulous students. Welcome to class. As usual, we're going to kick off with high-lows. So remember, let us all know if you've run into anything in the last week that's been fabulous that you want to celebrate, something really exciting happened, or if you've had a low, something that's not working out, or something that maybe we can all help you with. So does anyone have anything you want to start with? Alex, what do you got?
Well, after a couple of weeks, I thought that my roommate was actually pretty cool, at least when we first moved in. But I had a couple of really important quizzes this week, and their sleep schedule and mine just doesn't jive. They kept me up the whole night, and I kept waking up groggier and groggier. And I don't think I did so hot on those quizzes, and it's just causing a lot of tension between me and my roommate right now.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that, man. I think everyone in their life at some point ends up getting a bad roommate situation. I'm thinking we'll all be able to resonate with you somehow. Anyone have something that you would want to share? Maybe a way that you were successful in bouncing back yours? I know that I had a roommate who regularly would have lots of people over when I needed to study, and I really struggled to get them to make a change. Did anyone make that successful? One thing you'll notice about that is that I gave the students places to connect with not only me, but with each other, and I demonstrated that I was really listening. That way, the students know that I care about them, I'm hearing what's going on with them, and I actually want to see them as humans. Here's how you don't do high lows. All right, we're going to kick off with high lows as usual. What do we got today? Alex.
Yeah, so I mean, the first couple of weeks with my roomie were pretty cool and chill because I thought we kind of jived, but to be honest, like pretty pissed right now. The I had a couple of really important quizzes this week, which I told them, but it didn't seem to really matter. Like on the nights where I really needed to get good sleep because those quizzes are in my first couple classes the next day. They were just up and loud and inconsiderate all night, and having taken those quizzes, I'm not really confident about it. And it was really because I felt sleepy and groggy. And that was because of my roomie. And kind of pissed about it right now.
That sucks. Next. Strategy 2: Icebreakers. This is one thing that I learned from our student affairs colleagues that has really worked well in my classrooms. At the beginning of the semester, usually the first 2 or 3 weeks, I include icebreakers that are just fun. These fun icebreakers help the students get to know each other, help me get to know their names and who they are, and really get the students practicing speaking out loud in the class, which can get really important once we start to get discussions. And then the next thing I do is later on in the semester, I'll include some icebreakers that are a little more serious that help me get into some really difficult conversations about topics I teach. So there's 2 different levels you can consider when you're thinking about icebreakers. What you might want to do at the very beginning of the semester is include an icebreaker in what you might call an intake card. So the information your students give you on the first day of class. One thing I like to do is have something kind of fun, sassy that the students can not only share with me, but share with each other. Something that works really well online is asking them to give you a song. Specifically, if they can link it to something like Spotify, it can make it really easy for you to play that song and find that song. And then what I'll do is after my students have shared their song, they tell me a little bit about it. And I make sure that they know that they're going to be telling me about it so I don't put anyone in an awkward situation. When they tell me about it, they're going to tell each other something about themselves, something they're comfortable disclosing, but it'll help us understand each other on a deeper level and really enjoy getting to know each other as humans. What I do afterwards is I compile all of those songs into a Spotify playlist and I share it with all the students. So now they have an artifact that specifically and authentically represents who they see themselves as a class of people. Strategy number 3. This one comes with a caveat. Please don't use this strategy if you're not actually going to use the information that their students give you. This strategy is kind of based on the end of term student evaluations of teaching. But I think this way is a lot more useful for you and a lot more authentic for the students. What I do is at the beginning of the semester, at the midterms, and sometimes right before finals, I have my students tell me what they hope to get out of the class, what kind of things work for them as learners, and what kind of things they struggle with. And particularly at that midterm, what kind of things I can do that are really helping them learn, things they've seen that they want me to continue doing, and what kind of things are preventing them from really connecting with the course material, so that if I have the opportunity to shift the way I'm teaching, either the deployment or the materials I'm giving them, I can tailor it to the way that the students that I'm teaching that semester learn best and really are understanding that material and being able to utilize it with confidence. Again, this one's really important to only deploy if you're going to use the students' feedback. If you ask the students what's working for them and what's not, and then you continue to do everything that's not working for them without telling them a reason why it's really important to continue to do so, and also adapting the things that you can, they're going to see this as disingenuous, and I think it could actually really backfire for you. The fourth strategy I have for you is from the very beginning, designing your course to be inclusive of all the people that you might have in it. One thing I'm sure you've all heard of is universal design for ADA. In other words, if one of your students has some sort of disability, your university usually will contact you and say that you need to make some sort of accommodation to make sure that all of the learning materials you have for them are going to be things that they can use in the same way that your other students will be able to use materials so that they can be successful in your course. It's really important not to wait until you get one of those letters to start thinking about how you can make your class accessible to all people. One reason is it can be really hard for you if you're trying to come up with it on the fly. Another reason is that making your course accessible is really beneficial not only to if you get a student who needs that, but often to all the students in your class and to you as the faculty member. I'll give you a really good example. When I create a video, I always put in some sort of closed captioning or notes. This is really helpful for every student in my class, not just people who might need it for an ADA accommodation. If you have someone in your class, for example, who has English as their second language, it can be great for them to be able to see the text on the screen and actually follow along with it. That's something I do every time I watch a foreign film because for me, it's hard to follow in my second language, right? And then another thing is that the students then have those notes to take back and study from. So your students are ready to really engage with whatever content you shared with them in the lecture, not only in the lecture, but beyond the lecture. So this has helped you not have to create more materials. Your students already have what they need to be successful. And if you get someone who has an accommodation need, you've already taken care of them. Another layer of inclusivity, though, is not just ADA, but thinking about how you can make everyone feel seen and part of that community. I know this piece is going to be considered pretty hard by some of you, but trust me, I've done it in teaching classes with over 100 students. What I do is with those intake cards I already mentioned at the beginning of the semester, I create flashcards so I can remember all of my students' names and their pronouns. That can be really helpful if you don't have a photo of them on your online site where you're teaching in particular, but it's also inclusive of people who have gender identities that you may not recognize from reading off their body. So that way I can call you by name and I can call you by the pronoun that you think represents you authentically. And that way you feel seen every time I call on you in class or every time you reach out to me for support. The fifth and final suggestion we're going to cover in this video is giving your students the opportunity to have input in the course design. Two ways you might do this are through the course content and the course assessments. If you want the students to invest in the course content development, one thing you can do is create spaces in your syllabus in which your students can select the topics. They can be topics of interest to them within the bounds of the course, or they can be topics that the students really struggle with and want to spend some more time learning about so that they can successfully reach the learning goals of your course. With the assessments, one thing you can do is allow your students to have flexibility in the way they're assessed. I lead a lot of courses that are heavy in presentations and writing, so this fits in really well with the way I design them. One thing I like to do is give students a series of topics that they can choose among for them to present on, or to have them share with me their ideas through some sort of proposal, and then I can say whether or not that fits within the bounds of what we're doing. It makes it so I'm not looking at the exact same writing over and over again or the exact same presentation of the same content over and over again. I enjoy it a lot more, and my students enjoy it a lot more. One thing I would want you to be wary of, though, is if you're going to give students the opportunity to produce a proposal, you'll probably want to scaffold that, because not having a menu of topics that they can choose among can create some anxiety for students that might turn into a stress for you as well. There you have it. 5 strategies for virtually connecting with your students. If you want more strategies, detailed tutorials, or personalized support, visit umbraedu.com. If you found this video helpful, please know we're creating new content all the time. Consider giving us a like and subscribing. Thank you.